formally welcome everyone to today's webinar, How is Customer Behaviour Changing? I'm Rachel, I'm going to be your webinar chairperson today, and delighted to be joined by two brilliant industry experts, I'm going to call you. Peter Massey from Bud, welcome back to, I'm sure, one of many webinars we've done together.
Yeah, indeed. Nice to see you, Rachel, and looking forward to it.
Brilliant. And I don't know whether you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. CEO of Bud, my fourth or fifth business, I think. So my serial entrepreneur hat comes on in half my life, and the work that we do is predominantly focused on the Amazon growth model. Some people will know the book, The Best Service is No Service, as in removing the need for customers to call. We don't all wake up in the morning and think, I want to make that call, I want to make that email, I want to look on that website. You know, actually a lot of the demand is unnecessary.
Brilliant. Well, welcome back. And also welcome to his first webinar with us, Kobe Amadoui from Nice in Contact. Welcome, Kobe.
Thank you very much, Rachel. I'm really happy to be here. Big fan of your channel.
Brilliant. And I don't know whether you wanted to introduce yourself as well.
Yes, I'm the International Marketing Director for Nice in Contact. My job is really to talk about the good things we're doing with our customers and look at how we can help organizations deliver a better experience to their customers.
Brilliant. Well, looking forward to hearing from both of you. Just a reminder to the audience that we are taking a recording of today's webinar, and that will be available later on this afternoon on callcenterhelper.com/recorded-webinars. So to join in the discussion this week, just a reminder, we are running our chat room alongside. I think we've got 20 people so far, so keep logging in. So it's callcenterhelper.com/chat, or just use cch.chat. It's a short term that we've got. A reminder that it is in a separate window, but hopefully you can put them alongside each other or run the chat room on your mobile. So a few added bonuses of being in the chat room is that you can download a copy of both our speaker slides. Lots of information in them, so I definitely recommend downloading them. That's a link up here. And also a reminder that we will be doing our new quiz in between the two presentations, and so you can access the buttons down here at the bottom to be able to join in. So we are also running our prize for the best tip. So you can win a bottle of champagne, a box of chocolates, or an Amazon gift card for the best tip. So you just need to write #question to ask our panel a question, or write #tip for giving us a tip. So before I hand over to Peter, I just want to put up a poll. So let me share that with you now. So it's which statements do you agree with compared to 5 years ago? So actually, no, it's compared to 5 years ago. Our customers seek simplicity more. Our customers care more about ethics and sustainability. Do your customers are more informed about their choices? Our customers are less trusting of advisors, or our customers have changed how they want to interact? So Peter, what are your thoughts? What do you think is going to come out with this?
Well, it's difficult not to agree with all of the above. If I were to disagree with one of them, perhaps it would be customers being less trusting of advisors, in that I think, particularly during the COVID times, people have been somewhat more patient in terms of what they expect from their suppliers, and have been more patient with the people on the end of the phone. So maybe there's a tweak on that, but all of the others I think are changing, and certainly I'm sure Kobe will talk about the how customers want to interact. That's one of your subjects, isn't it, Kobe?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we are seeing some shifts, and your results are in.
Yes, so 62% coming out on top with our customers have changed how they want to interact, 55% saying our customers seek simplicity more, 40% saying our customers are more informed about their choices, 30% our customers care more about ethics and sustainability, and Peter, I'm sure you'll be pleased to see that only 17% saying our customers are less trusting of advisors.
Well, that's good for the industry anyway.
Fab. So I think it's a perfect chance for me to hand over to you. So I just need to stop sharing. And
Okay.
Peter, if you could put up your presentation.
Screen. Yeah, here we go. There we go. So, fingers crossed. Screen sharing has failed to start. Please try again later.
Ah.
Hang on a sec then. Let me escape that view and just try that again. So share screen, screen choice, share. There we go. That's come up now, has it?
Yes, it has. And let's see. Yep, perfect.
Okay, brilliant. So yeah, how are customer relationships changing? The topic of the day. So I'll do a quick intro and then I'm going to share with you some thoughts from my international colleagues. And then I've got two particular points I want to focus on. Obviously, it's a big topic. We could go in all sorts of directions on this and be here for hours, but I've focused on two particular points. So let's see them. There we go. So just very briefly, Bud, as I explained, working a lot on the Amazon growth model, but all sorts of the customer experience area. Lots and lots of different clients and lots of different segments in this is UK clients. Our passion we describe as how do we stop doing dumb things to our customers and our people. The marketeers always tell you you shouldn't have negative statements, but we find this really sums up what we spend a lot of time doing. It's trying to apply common sense in large scale businesses, be that 100 people or 10,000 people. Trying to make the organizations work well for customers is kind of difficult. I use the example here of this is Hyundai. We've got a couple of these Santa Fe cars. My wife's been in this week, last week rather, and trying to get the hire car that replaces the car while it's in took nearly as long as the car took to repair, which was saying something because it was in for 2 weeks. So it's kind of like, it's a really simple thing. And the answer to the question, how do we stop doing dumb things to our customers and our people, often lies in brilliant basics. It's not often silver bullets or fancy things. It's often about really simple process, doing things well. And another example from this week, we've just got a new puppy, which is being babysat in the other room. So excuse it if it barks, but we've been trying to get pet insurance and actually trying to complete the process without using a phone has proved extremely difficult. And in one case, because the excess on the policy was in the very, very small print, which gave somewhat of a surprise. And the other one, because my wife being a vet, there's a discount to be applied and you can't apply the discount on the screen. Now, so you have to swap channels, you have to move around, and the lack of joined upness of those channels causes a significant amount of effort for me, but also for the company. And in both cases, lost them the business. So those dumb things are not hard to see, they're all around us. Very often in our own organizations, we can become numb to them if we're not careful. One has got to have a really good eye for these things continuously all the time. So as I say, going back to the question of how customer experience is changing, I reached out to some of my international colleagues. We have this group, Linebridge, which has been running now for 18 years and fantastic source of what's going on in the world and who's doing what. So in Germany, my colleague Stefan was saying, I only gave them that it wasn't multiple choice. You're only allowed one answer. So this is just a potted answer. People are more conscious about their decisions and they take at home and at work and of the consequences of them. So there's more thoughtfulness going on. In India, they were saying a lot more need for not in-person services. So making everything contactless. I'm sure we can all agree in that, most countries. People are more conservative in Australia. They're saving more, trusting less. And that's quite interesting. But because my colleague David added to that it's strange though that customers seem more gullible. There are funny things going on, funny offers that have been taken up. And I think also in a political sense, he was talking about the way that media works and the way politicians work is taken some holes in the trust. From the US, Bill, my colleague from Seattle, was saying about customers being more demanding. So there's an added intensity to the discussions because there maybe because there's more at stake, maybe because it's just that people have got less on their plate because they're traveling less. So many people travel a lot of time on business. So there's a lot more people working from home. That's giving them time to be more demanding. And perhaps he added also that maybe they're a little less tolerant. Being demanding is one thing, but being less tolerant of it not working or not getting resolution can be very critical in that sense. Perhaps, you know, the atmosphere in the States is adding to that. From France, acceleration was what Joseph mentioned. More and more digital is really the thing. And with a lot of people working from home, a lot of people have had to adjust. The take-up has been accelerated in that sense. So again, all of these trends, I think we can see in the short term and see what's there. And from my point of view, the point I've noticed most, I think, is that businesses have realized, they knew, but they've realized that customers are way ahead of them digitally. And actually customers want these things and can do these things. So the customer is leading what business is doing. And in turn, businesses are leading what government is doing in the COVID sense. So that it's really a lot more customer power going on in terms of what's happening. And of course, the background is that COVID plus Brexit minus capability equals recession. So as far as customer relationships are concerned, I think we're going to see another big jump, because as recession starts to bite and gets deeper, we're going to see customers needing different things. They're going to have different demands when they get in touch. They're going to have different pressures. And we're going to have to move from a COVID-only pressure to something more significant. And I put the minus capability because, you know, not speaking about any one party or another, the capability in the UK relative to some other countries to handle these situations has been missing. And so I think customers are feeling that pressure, whether it's socially or whether it's through financial pressures that they've got. So I think we've got some gearing up to do to be ready for what customers want. But I suppose underlying this, there's a lot of similarities for different countries. But I did, you know, having thought about these answers, I was thinking, well, these are the symptoms, what's underpinning them. So I wanted to just pick out two things from that point of view. So one was how slowly human behavior actually changes. So although we've had this COVID shock and lockdown shock and all sorts of stresses and strains, human behavior, I think, is quite elastic in that sense. It takes a long time to change. And megatrends, so i.e. the things that are going on globally in a wider sense, are dictating customer experience trends. It's not that you look for the customer experience trend and see where they're going. You look at the context and see what that's going to do to customer experience. And I think these are the two big points I'd like to bring home. So I'll spend a little bit of time on each one. Okay, so first off on the customer changes, customer behavior changing slowly. Lockdown obviously gave us a shock, but it's interesting now to contemplate what has happened and what we remember of that shock back in March, or depending on where you are in the world, February, March, April. Because I wrote a blog at the time saying, you know, just advising about how teams can write down and do some end of day consultation with each other about what they're experiencing, what's working, particularly what's working, because things were happening very quickly, decisions were made different ways, technologies were being implemented in time periods people couldn't imagine. Things that had been in the queue for IT to fix, you know, for a year were getting done in days. So there was a lot of positive, and also there was a lot of adjustment that was being done. And it's actually quite hard now when you ask people to find what those things were. I was on a call this morning with a colleague in Australia, and he was talking about the review they're doing there of how COVID was handled. And he said the predominant answer in the investigation is, I can't remember. Now that could be politically motivated, but actually I think it's genuine. We do forget quite quickly what's there. But what we can't miss is that things have accelerated. So if you were in a weak position before, that accelerated, you got weaker. If you were in a strong position, that accelerated, you got stronger. And the decisions that were taken were really, really important. Now, the point about this is, though, is that our fundamental behaviors as customers towards our suppliers have not been knocked on the head or turned right or left. they've been accelerated in terms of the trends. I was on a webinar the other week with Zendesk, who printed some figures not that long ago, and they were showing that WhatsApp use in the UK went up 250%. You know, so it actually was on a trend and it accelerated. These things don't just appear out of the blue. Secondly, the point I'd like to make is that psychology over technology. There's one of the things we focus so much of our energy in business, thinking about the technologies, the platforms, et cetera. And the problem is as old as the hills in terms of, you know, how much training effort do we put in? What change and implementation resource do we put in? How much time do we spend preparing people and helping them through the transitions that technology brings? And so I'm a great believer in the need for thinking about the amount of psychology you put into your technology projects. So if you look at it and say it by budget or by time or by effort or whatever, how much thinking have you actually done about how this is going to land? How are you going to make that work, rather than just thinking it's going to work off the bat? And I'd caveat that with one thing, that quite a lot of cloud technologies can be adopted off the bat. There are a lot of things today that you can stick your credit card in, go wow, and get the process running. There are plenty of things that will do that, but in large corporations, that's not that simple. So from the point of view of psychology, you know, this is a bit lighthearted, but keep calm and study psychology. I think the main point here are two things. One is demanding evidence and thinking critically. This skill of working with data, being analytical, using analytical tools, and being able to think critically and hit the right points is a skill that's in great demand. One of our clients recently did a skills audit and found they were averaging 1 out of 5 when their future requirements were going to require at least 4 out of 5 in that skill set. And so there's a lot of work people are doing to bring up these skills, not least because the analytical tools and the graphical tools that are available allow people to really, you know, again, amplify their abilities in that sense. And to, you know, for most people, it's quite an interesting subject. Radio 4's most popular program is Tim Harford's More or Less. So getting behind stats, getting behind numbers, it needn't be boring. It can be, let's face it, it can be really boring, but it needn't be. And I think the other point I want to bring out is that across the bottom there, behavioral science, I don't know. So there's a critical skill in using data, which is to say, I don't know. Now, behavioral science, fancy word, all the rest of it, really what it means is, you know, look at the evidence, look at the data. Don't believe you can guess what customers will do. You have to run some kind of experimentation or A/B test or whatever it is to find out what customers will do in what situation. And that's true whether you're rolling out an IVR or a chatbot or a new application. You have to observe and see what's going on. And the important mindset is to say, I don't know until I see the evidence. Now, I don't know is a statement not many people make when they're in a boardroom. So if you're presenting to the board or you're a board member and people say, da, 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 how many times do you hear people say, I don't know? It takes a strong character to say that. And it's something to practice. Saying, I don't know, and then pause. People look around and go, what's he said? Because, da, 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 da. Okay, this is what the data tells me. This is what we conclude from that. This is what we ought to do to try and prove what we should do to make this decision. So this, you know, psychology sounds like a big word. You know, it's not that fancy. There are lots of books to study, and it's mainly about giving the human side of what's going on the focus, given the amount of technology that's around. Okay, so that's one area. The other area, I call it megatrends. There are lots of sources for this kind of information, but just looking at what's going on in the world, I think is an important lead to what's changing in customer behavior. And one of the things I think that's happening is that the old Maslow's hierarchy, there are some basics in there being threatened. You know, the warmth, shelter, food, water, what does that look like? You know, the biggest deal on the table at the moment is probably climate change. I was listening to a webinar 2 days ago. Claire Perry was talking. She's the ex-climate minister from the previous regime, shall I say. And she was talking about how we're following the science with COVID, yet all of the scientists agree about climate change and none of the politicians are following. Now, that's not completely true, but it's a, you know, it really is quite a gap. Climate change threatens us, and lots of things that are going on around it. Shelter, migration, and population, and the issues that go on around homelessness and so forth, food, poverty, natural resources, food standards, water, drinking water or flooding, too much, too little, in that sort of way. Some of these are big global problems, which I think the next generation of managers are much more interested in than the current generation. And that's changing quite rapidly. The political environment for it and the will to do something about these things is going to change not only the customer's expectation, customers are interested in the supply chain where they weren't before. It also matters to the management because they're going to have to show what they're doing. So I think the second point I'd make is about aging population and health services, obviously very topical with COVID, but in a broader sense, it's a problem that the whole world faces, that populations are aging. I saw some interesting data this morning about populations in China and in Asia shrinking, and in Europe indeed as well. And that there was a prediction that by 2050, some 23 countries would have populations lower than they have now. And so there's some interesting trends about the mix in the population and how we pay for healthcare, as well as the science that's coming in on health services, which is very expensive. So there's some really interesting things there about what customers are going to value and how they're going to spend their money and how money is going to get used in the system. I think the third point I would make is about what I call post-Western democracy. So this applies particularly if you're watching from the UK or the US. We can see this in our faces. But a lot of what we would call democratic values are now being challenged or have been taken away. And so there's an important thing about thinking about the way the political system works, the way, again, money flows within those political systems, and what that does to commerce, and what it does, particularly as we saw in the comments earlier on, to trust. It makes a big difference to a trusted brand that's going to have to work really hard in this environment. Gives a great opportunity, but it's really important. And in the area of trust, my fourth point, privacy and digital identity. Absolutely critical to trust in the way that a brand is trusted. And I use these two illustrations here of where this stuff's going. So I, like many of you, I'm sure, got this NHS test and trace email through the other day. And my immediate reaction is, well, it's not NHS test and trace, it's Serco's test and trace. Where did they get my email address from? I haven't given permission for them to send me that email. So maybe they've got some executive power to do it, maybe whatever, but I want to know where they got my email from. And at the same time on the left there was on September I think it was September the 9th, yeah, it's on the sheet, they published a new national data strategy. And in that national data strategy, they're talking about commercial use of public data around citizens. So there's some really interesting stuff going when you put this kind of post-Western democracy together with privacy and digital identity. We're going to have some really interesting stuff to watch there. And that's going to affect the way that people trust their suppliers, commercial suppliers, as well as their governmental ones. And finally, I just wanted to make a quick word around work, AI and robotics. So, the whole topic of AI and robotics and how it replaces work is an ever ongoing debate. None of us know the answer yet, but one of the things it's doing is probably changing the nature of work. I took this slide at the top right here from a little bit out of date, but again, my Australian colleague showed me the up-to-date one of these. It was in The Economist, I think, just looking at the changing patterns as we get less work of some kinds and much more work in the non-routine cognitive work. So the jobs that are going to be there are things that people are using their brains for, things that machines can't do. And if you've followed any of my tweets, you'll have seen, the essays that machines can write for themselves these days, getting pretty impressive. So it's going to be quite interesting to see, not necessarily the replacement of a doctor or an electrician, but the enhancement of the work that they do, the change in the nature of the work that they do, and all of these other kind of jobs as well. Maybe the lifeguard's okay, except the drone will probably come and rescue somebody first. You may have seen the guy in the jet suit the other day flying over the Lake District doing rescues. Anyway, all sorts of things are possible. These trends are there. And the final one, education. That education, as the quote says there, you can read it, I think is one of the most fundamental things. And it leads me to my point I'll finish on, which is look east, not look west. It really astonishes me the amount of coverage we have of what goes on in the US. We get little coverage of what goes on in China, India, Indonesia, these very large economies to the east of us who are now as big as, if not bigger than, what's going on, where education is still highly valued. It costs a lot, but it's highly valued, respected, and really, really important. And the importance of education is that we all have to skill ourselves for that new world. We have to have different skills from the ones we had. We have to make money in a different way at an economic level, and at a personal level, we have to find satisfaction in a different way. So I think it's really, really important to look at how customer trends are changing, customer experience is changing relative to these trends, and prepare ourselves. Put time aside every day. If it's 10 minutes reading every day, if it's, you know, going on that course for the next year, if it's whatever, invest in yourself, make your business invest in you, because, you know, this is a time of change over the next decade for sure. And to finish on the next decade, yeah, well, what do our kids say or grandkids say? There's always got to be an excuse to get the grandchild in. So particularly in the discussion we had around colleagues in different countries, we found these three factors. We were talking about our kids. We've seen them grow up. We've seen each other's kids grow up. The climate crisis is top of mind. Racial and sexual discrimination is very high up there. Poverty is high up there. They want to know what their suppliers, the companies that are selling to them, are doing about these three things. And if you don't have an answer for those three things, I think in 10 years' time, you'll have a problem selling anything. I hope that's true. Anyway, so that's two factors: human behavior changing slowly, mega trends, look at them, study them, see what that's going to do to customer behavior. Thanks very much, Rachel.
Fab, thank you very much for that, Peter. I'm just going to share my screen. So we are coming to our quiz now. So if you want to take part, you need to be in our chat room. So callcenterhelper.com/chat. While you're in there, maybe you could share in 1 or 2 words, what did you like best about Peter's presentation? For me, some brilliant takeaways. So the answers across the globe to the question, how are customer relationships changing? And it really showed to me how, despite being all over the world, they really ring true here, a lot of it. And also, you are asking your colleagues' children the same question, and how, you know, what companies they'll be working with in the future based on, you know, what they're doing about climate crisis, racial and sexual discrimination, poverty, etc. My final key takeaway was look east, not west. You know, stop following the news in America and start following it in China, India, Indonesia, and Singapore to really see what they're doing. So thank you very much for that, Peter. Really, really interesting. So we are coming over to our quiz now. So just a reminder, you need to be in the chat room and use the voting buttons at the bottom. So A, B, C, or D. So yeah, you could see, should we wait for it, see if a few more people are going to come in? Last chance to take part. The winner wins a bottle of champagne, box of chocolates, or an Amazon gift card. Send out a lot of champagne across the world. So yeah. So right, we're going to begin. So first question: inbound voice is still the #1 channel of choice, but what is the second most popular channel across the call center industry? Is it A, outbound voice, B, email, C, live chat, or D, social media? So inbound voice is still the #1 channel, but what is the second most popular channel across the call center industry? So is it A, outbound voice, B, email, C, live chat, or D, social media? Just a reminder, you need to be in the chat room and you need to click the buttons that match the appropriate one at the bottom. So last chance. So the answer was B, email. According to a 2020 call center helper report, 18.6% of customer contact came through email, 12.6% comes across outbound voice, 5.9% through live chat, and 2.1% through through social media. Sorry. So Claire is currently in the top. So next question, true or false? 2 in 3 consumers say there is often not enough help available on organizations' websites or apps. Is it A, true, or B, false? So it's true or false. 2 in 3 consumers say there's often not enough help available on organizations' websites or apps. So A, true, or B, false. So vote now. Last chance. So most people getting that one right. The correct answer is A, true. This finding comes from Dr. Nicola Millard's report, The Autonomous Customer 2020, which also found 3 in 4 consumers buy more from companies that make it easier to do business with them. Claire's still in the lead. So question 3, what percentage of customers say that it takes too long to identify them when they phone call centres? Is it A, 18%, B, 38%, C, 58%, or D, 78%? Lots of people voting. So what percentage of customers say that it takes too long to identify them when they phone call centres? Is it A, 18%, B, 38%, C, 58%, or D, 78%? So I'm going to go on to the next. Yep, most people getting this one right. The correct answer is C, 58%. So this is according to a 2020 report by BT that also found that 81% of customers would like voice biometrics for identification and verification. So a bit of a change at the top. So last question, which famous entrepreneur once said, a lot of times people don't know what they want until you show it to them? Was it A, Richard Branson, B, Mark Zuckerberg, C, Elon Musk, or D, Steve Jobs? So which famous entrepreneur once said, a lot of times people don't know what they want until you show it to them? Was it A, Richard Branson, B, Mark Zuckerberg, C, Elon Musk, or D, Steve Jobs? So last chance. So yeah, most people getting that one right. The correct answer is D, Steve Jobs. Another famous quote from him was, it's not the customer's job to know what they want. So the winner is Stacey14. So congratulations. We will be in touch after the webinar with your prize. So I'm going to flick back to our presentation and go through our top tips and questions. So we've been sent in a lot, so I'm going to whistle through some of these. So Alex said, even if your customers contacted you via one specific method, offer them the option to use an alternative, e.g. if you're e.g. if you're emailing, include an offer of a quick call to do sorry, I've got all sorts of things covering my screen. There we go. To avoid email tennis, if it's an inbound call, encourage use of self-service. All helps to reduce customer effort. Peter, what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, definitely. The tech industry has been doing that for a long time. You know, don't email back. Basic is a basic. Yeah. Yep. You can end up with 20 emails instead of one call.
Yep. And Kobe, I'm sure you would agree on the tech options.
Yeah, I think the tech option is key, but it's also understanding really the journey that your customers are on and what they're looking for in terms of single call resolution that everyone's hoping for. But enabling them to have options about how they communicate with you is probably another key things to look at for people to understand as well.
Yeah. So Iona said, we create new scorecards, KPIs for agents based on customer promise, personal emotional connection score, and random acts of kindness, small gifts sent to our customers if we identified a moment of truth. So James sent in a tip saying, we changed how we monitor call quality by implementing a new monitoring assessment, looking at customer experience rather than procedure. Alex, obviously going for the winning tip, sent in another one saying, don't launch services or tech changes without fully engaging your workforce first. Providing a new option to customers is great, unless the people providing it can't deliver properly. Kobe, I'm guessing, that's key.
Well, it comes back to the fact that every business now is in the experience economy, regardless of what industry they are. So their customers need to be able to feel that they're getting a positive experience, and technology enables you to do that. But you need to be working with the right technology partner that offers you, a high level of service and guarantees.
Yeah. And not introducing a new kind of channel just for the sake of it.
Introducing a new channel for the sake of it, being able to, engage your workforce. Your agents are the coalface of everything, but also being able to look at how you can analyze engagement and quality management throughout the whole process.
Yeah. So we've been sent in a tip saying, in most cases, the major difference between an ordinary and an exceptional customer service lies in the ability to swiftly gauge the slightest of changes in customer behaviour and adjust and adapt accordingly to stay relevant and ahead of the competition. Peter, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's certainly reading the first half of the sentence. I thought that Gaurav was going to say in the conversation. I'm a great believer in the fact that all customer experience is a conversation, whether it's me and a machine or two machines talking to each other, two people talking to each other. In some way, it's a conversation. And this point about swiftly gauging the slightest change in what customers are saying, doing, hearing between the lines almost, if I'm mixing my metaphors, I'm sure. It's really important at a personal level to teach agents how to do it. It's really important to teach analysts how to pick it up in the data. And it's really important to train machines to be able to react to the right situations. And that training machines to do things is a really important skill that's in very short demand. Short supply. So yeah, I think it's a really good point.
Yeah, Kobe, you're nodding along as well.
I absolutely love this question. The slightest variation in sentiment from your customer can change a really positive experience to a really negative one. And it's about training your agent to be able to pick up on that. But also you can actually provide them tools that automatically monitors the sentiment of discussions, monitors how the discussion's going, and actually can provide guidance to agents in terms of how to deal with those interactions for a better outcome. And we can talk about technology, how that happens later on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great option to hand over to you for you to take us through your presentation.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Let me just share my screen. Here we go. Have we got...
Perfect. Yes.
So thank you everyone for joining, and this has been quite a really good discussion so far. Peter's presentation was excellent, set the scene about the geopolitical macro environment and what's happening that's influencing customer behavior. What I'd like to do in my presentation is just focus on a couple of key areas, building on what Peter said, but bringing it down to a little bit more of the micro level. So one of the things that we're seeing at the moment is a change in customer behavior across multiple channels. We're seeing an increase in mobile device usage. We're looking at customer expectations that are changing and adapting almost on a weekly, monthly basis. And the customer journey can vary from industry, can vary from organization, and can vary from interaction to interaction. So what influence does that have on your call center and your contact center and your agents and how you deal with that with your customers? And then we want to look at, what are the things that a contact center, a modern contact center must have, the things that you should aspire to, if not have already. Before we get into the weeds of it, Rach, I'd like to do a quick poll with the audience and just kind of get an indication about how, you know, the global pandemic has changed your perspective around digital adoption in the last 6 months. There are 5 options, and would like you to choose one of those to tell us where you are in your thinking or your business around the move to digital.
Yeah, so the question is, how has the global pandemic changed your perspective on digital adoption? You know, we're continuing with voice only, we're continuing with voice in our existing channels, we're starting digital adoption, we're adopting digital at the same pace, so pre-lockdown, or we're accelerating our digital adoption. So Kobe, what are you hoping to see?
Well, you know, I think things vary from, you know, one customer to another, but clearly the need to have agents working remotely, the need to provide a seamless experience. Hopefully the adoption rate is increasing around digital, and seeing how customers and prospects are using new technologies to be communicating with various businesses. We're hoping to see an increase in that.
Yeah, so 46% of people saying we're accelerating our digital adoption, 25% saying we're adopting digital at the same pace, 17% saying we're continuing with voice in our existing channels, 10% saying we're starting digital adoption, and only 2% saying we're continuing with voice only.
Right.
So
that kind of bears out with a lot of data that we see within the market from NICE in Contact and the conversations that we have with industry commentators as well as customers and partners. So that's quite encouraging to see. So what's kind of helping lead this kind of change to digital? Well, one of the things is we know that smartphone proliferation is something that's been quite prevalent over the last few years. And in particular, we looked at some research conducted by the Office of National Statistics over the last 3 months over the pandemic to see what devices people were using to mainly access the internet. And as you can see, mobile phones or smartphones have been the #1 device to access the internet over the last 3 months. And that's across all demographics. Now, anyone with a teenager in the audience wouldn't be surprised to know that Generation Z is the first choice of accessing internet or services is with their mobile device. But as we go through the other demographics, the surprising thing is, although it's declining as you go up in terms of the age groups, we're seeing mobile is the first choice for all these demographics in terms of accessing the internet. Now, what does that mean for organizations? This means that the shift to digital is happening faster than we expect. There've been some macro environments like the pandemic and other issues that's accelerated that. But in this major research conducted by Contact Babel recently, the UK Customer Experience Decision Makers Guide for 2021, they interviewed more than 200 customer center professionals and over 1,000 UK-based customers to reveal just how much CX has changed and what that means for successful interactions for a contact center. Looking at how things have changed over the last 3 to 6 months, especially since March when the pandemic hit, there's been a massive uptick in digital, whether that's been handled by agents or automation. Very few organizations reported a drop in digital whatsoever. In fact, the report goes on to show that some organizations, their call volume was so overwhelming that they had to switch off their phones and move to more email, social channels to communicate more effectively because they couldn't handle those volumes. Moreover, we're seeing contact centers, seeing customers now moving more across different channels and trying new things. the times when, you know, you had your bot or your IVR system that might have been intimidating for a customer are changing. People are becoming more adaptable. People are looking at their preferences in terms of their communication strategy with your organization in different ways. They're looking for ways that they can adapt working from home, being able to communicate through multiple channels, and not being on hold for 45 minutes to get through to their internet service provider because their internet's gone down. But it's about providing the ability to answer those quick queries quickly and answer customer interactions and questions quickly across multiple channels. Supported in this is some research that we conducted ourselves from Nice in Contact. And there are three key outcomes what consumers are demanding today. Over 94% of those we surveyed say they expected the organization, the contact center, to direct them to the method of contacting them that resolves the issue in the quickest way. For example, the example I just gave about contacting my ISV, if I'd known that, you know, they're experiencing super high call volumes, but they have lower wait times with their online chat channels, that could resolve my issue much more quickly, or self-service option, that would have been great to know. 87% of those we surveyed as well said they were looking for more options to be able to communicate with the brands that they deal with. So not just phone, not just online chat, not just email, but through multiple channels, social media. And 91% of them said they wanted to engage around true omni-channel. Now, consumers don't understand what true omni-channel is. To them, it's about seamlessly being able to interact with their organization or the brand that they're communicating with asynchronously across multiple channels. So whether you start your conversation off through an online messaging system to picking up a voice call, the agent at the other end knows your issues, knows where you are with the solution, and you can pick up those conversations at the point you left off. And we're seeing more and more of that across the industry. And as we deal with more and more customers in our field, we're looking at that as one of the big areas of demand and big areas of growth. Customers now have anytime, anywhere access to digital and voice services. We refer back to the mobile device usage chart earlier on. You know, you've got a powerhouse, essentially a multifunctional computer in your hands that allows you to communicate in multiple different ways, whether that's through messaging, whether that's on social, or whether that's, you know, through voice. Typically, we're seeing more and more interactions become more and more complex interactions. And by the time those interactions hit the agent, you know, the customer has probably gone onto your website, engage with a chatbot looking at what offers and options they have before they've engaged an agent, maybe through a live chat. That call may have been escalated to a voice call. And ultimately, the agent may follow up with something in writing, confirmation of actions and agreements from their interaction with the customer or prospect. Then typically we see those customers go to a social platform of some sort and talk about their interaction they've had with that business, whether that's been positive or negative. The key takeaway from this is customers expect contact centers to be more flexible, to allow them different ways of communicating. They want to combine self-service with agent-assisted channels. They want to look at improving multiple channels across one session. So it's not just about voice and single call resolution anymore, but a single contact resolution. They want to be able to pause those discussions. There have been occasions where I know from my own personal experience when I've been engaged with an agent on a live chat, for example, and I'm distracted either by the phone ringing, the children wanting something, or another thing happening. I want to be able to pick up where I've left off and being able to have the same level of interaction, but without having to explain the situation over and over again. So what are the key must-haves for contact centers now? What we're seeing, and it's not just because we provide this, but what we're seeing is the demand for unified communications across multiple channels is key. Whether you integrate existing solutions under one platform or have an opportunity to be able to deliver point solutions that integrate together and work really well, is the challenge for a lot of organizations right now. There are not very many platforms that provide one single user interface that allows you to do everything from reporting, analytics, workforce engagement, administration, and looking at sophisticated omni-channel routing. You want to be empowering your agents with omni-channel. Let your customers decide how they want to communicate with you, but provide your agents with the ability to be able to communicate with their customers and prospects across whatever channel they want to share with you and communicate with you. You should be able to handle multiple interactions. So typically a voice interaction, an agent may be able to handle 2 or 3 calls, but how do you leverage that to be able to manage 8 to 10 interactions simultaneously across different channels through a single user interface, and empower your agent with data, with customer information, all at the point of contact, to be able to optimize that journey and make sure that they're having a positive interaction with your audience, as well as being able to have a positive experience themselves and feel empowered to be able to engage with your customers in the best way possible to meet their queries. Every business needs to be able to be flexible and scalable right now. And scalability doesn't mean you exponentially grow overnight. It means, you know, sometimes, especially in the current environment, how do you adapt your channels to be less than, you know, you may have needed 6 months ago? How do you make sure that as things improve, you're able to grow and add a level of flexibility to your platforms and be able to deliver the same level of quality of services with your agents working from anywhere? As I stated before, we work in an experience economy. So whether you're a 10 agent call center to 1,000 agent call center, contact center, you're able to provide the same level of customer service and engagement as you would across multiple channels within your business. So here's a salesy bit. We at Nice in Contact provide our platform. It's called CX1. Now, CX1 is designed to really offer you a better experience in your contact center. It's a software platform that provides exceptional agent and customer experience. We offer everything from omni-channel routing, whether that's your ACD, IVR, or across all your digital channels, to customer and analytics, looking at how you turn customer journey insights, agent performance, and so on into actionable results that you can able to leverage within your business. We provide complicated, detailed, and optimized workforce engagement tools that integrates with the rest of the platform, that tells you, it allows you to monitor everything from quality management, workforce optimization, and all those capabilities interlock under one platform, and it's underlined by AI and automation to be able to give you the insights that you need to be able to adapt to the changing environment and your changing customer needs. All of this is built on one open cloud platform or foundation, which means that we're able to offer a native integration into CRM systems, for example, whether you're using Salesforce, LogMeIn, or Bullhorn if you're in the recruitment business, for instance. We believe CX1 can transform your contact center and provide exceptional service for your agents and your customers, but also allow your business to be able to meet its business goals and be able to be flexible enough to adapt to any kind of future, whether it's pandemic or whether it's fire, or whether it's terrorism, whatever. Your agents will be able to work from anywhere in the same capacity they do within your office or your contact center. Now, we've been recognized within the industry by all the key analyst firms as a leader. So we were in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for Contact Center as a Service. We've just had the Forrester Wave put us in the top right, the furthest top right, as a leader. And we've also had confirmation from multiple analyst firms as a leader in our space for around innovation and ability to execute. The Forrester Wave was just published this month, in September, and we got perfect scores out of 29 out of the 33 criteria, which is the highest there's been in the Wave, and we were recognized for that. You're able to download that report from this link, and actually we have a resource center for anyone who's interested in some of the reports, the white paper content that we have, looking at other webinars that we've implemented, and to find out more information about CX1, NICE inContact, and the platform. So without further ado, thank you very much for taking the time to listen. Rachel, back to you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Kobe. Before I share kind of my key takeaways, I just want to launch a quick poll. So if you would like to have a demonstration of the NICE inContact solution, please just share on the poll. So yeah, some great information that I took away. 100% of Gen Z users use their mobile to access the internet in the last 3 months, which I thought was really, quite mind-blowing. 94% of people expect companies direct them to the method that will solve their query the quickest.
Yes.
So definitely one to kind of look into. And also a Contact Babel report showed that for some organisations, call volume was so overwhelming since March that they had to turn off phone and, direct people towards other channels, which, was definitely an interesting one for me. So thank you very much.
Have you had the experience of an organisation that has done that?
No, but I know that a point that actually Peter made earlier about making it easy for people to do things with, we were trying to, our editor was trying to change our electric supplier, and had all the details, tried to get through to the company, and was waiting for so long that they said, right, okay, we'll go with a different company now because we can't make our renewal. So that was lost business because of not being able to get through.
And how many interactions are happening right now that a lot of contact centers don't know about, because these things are just very much the same? If it comes back to my ISV, which is a true example, by the way, where if I'd known that, it would have been a quicker interaction to have it as chat rather than voice, that would have been great, because I would have moved on to that rather than waiting 45 minutes to speak to someone.
So lots of tips, so I'm going to quickly try and whiz through some of these. A tip sent in from Daryl was, we've been using voice biometrics in our call center for several years. It has increased our opportunity to connect with our customers, reduced AHT, and has cut down on our customers' frustrations regarding the identification process. So Claire sent in a tip saying, invest in vulnerable customer training or retraining now, as more people will be considered vulnerable as a result of COVID. So you need to be fully prepared. Peter, what are your quick thoughts on this one?
Yeah, actually, I ran a session on vulnerable customers a while back. And the thing that struck us in the debate that followed was that actually everything you do for a vulnerable customer, you really should be doing for every customer. So actually studying what you do for vulnerable customers in a regulated industry is a very powerful way of making people aware of how they fact find, how they need find, and how they really understand what customers are after.
Yeah, thank you. So final tip from Colleen was, a consistent positive call ending to manage customer expectations is a simple way to ensure customers remember the experience positively. that they know what they can expect to happen / do, and you reduce failure demand of customers putting the phone down, doubting the agent and calling back to check. It seems so simple, but so often don't hear it happen. I think that one's a great one. So unfortunately, we've reached the top of the hour. So if you could share in 1 or 2 words, what did you like best about today's webinar? So today's winning tip comes from Laura51. So she said, give your agents an easy avenue to escalate customer feedback, whether that is to develop a team, call center managers, etc., depending on what the feedback is about. Don't redirect them to another channel to provide the same feedback they just told you, said the agent. So well done, Laura. We'll be in touch after the webinar to sort out your prize. Just a reminder to complete the survey. It's just 4 questions long and gives us an opportunity to improve our webinars. A reminder that the replay will be available later on this afternoon so that you can share it with your team or revisit any of the points that we've mentioned. So we're back next week with our webinar on Contact Center of the Future. So you can sign up here. And I just want to say thank you very much to our 2 brilliant speakers today. To Peter Massey from Bud, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you, Rachel, and thanks everybody.
Thank you. And to Kobe Amadumi from Nice in Contact, thank you very much as well.
You're welcome, Rachel. It's been a pleasure.
Brilliant. So we will see you all next week. But for now, thank you very much and goodbye.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.